People say they want this, and the other thing, but online, what's popular is the conflict. And it's unfortunate that that's come to that.
But also, that conflict is necessary in a democracy. Like, if we all agreed on everything, what's the point? Disagreeing is an important part of our democratic system. Argument and debate is an important part of it.
So Zach Churchill, elected in 2010, you will be 40 next year?
I will be, yes. Thanks for reminding me.
You've been the MLA for Yarmouth your entire career, obviously?
In provincial politics.
Yep, in provincial.
Yeah.
So you were Minister of Health and Wellness, Minister responsible for Office of Mental Health and Addictions, unless some of this is wrong, Minister of Natural Resources, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister of Communications, Nova Scotia, Minister of Education and Childhood Development, Minister responsible for implementing Nova Scotia's pre-primary program, virtual care pilot, and bringing CAR T-cell cancer treatment to Nova Scotians. And then 2023, you become the leader of Nova Scotia's Liberal Party, the official opposition. So what do you want for Christmas?
I want some time with my family for Christmas, and I think we're going to be able to get a little bit of time together. So I'm excited about that. I got two young kids, 6 and 4, an incredible wife at home, and we have a lot of fun together. So I'm looking forward to being home with them and with my community, because I don't get to be in Yarmouth as much as I normally would be leading the party as well. So I'm looking forward to some time in Yarmouth with the family and friends and community members.
So I have here a very broad question, but what do you think of the state of politics right now in 2023, today, the state of politics?
Well, it's fascinating, and I think people are under a lot of duress right now, financial duress in particular, and of course that elevates anxiety and issues that we have to deal with as politicians and that we have to deal with as community representatives too. And I think we're at a period where there's some serious generational challenges. So very different than when I started 13 years ago. We've got high inflation, we have run out of housing, we have climate change that's going to impact our economy and our communities in really significant ways, as we've seen this past year with the tragic floods and the wildfires. And I really think that the decisions that we make right now in our political system are going to impact this province for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years. So I think it's a challenging time for people, which makes it a challenging time in politics, but it's also a very consequential time, and I think the decisions that are made right now, how we spend our money, what we do, is really going to have a serious impact on what happens to Nova Scotia over the next number of years.
As the leader of His Majesty's official opposition, your job is to hold the government to account. That's the role, that's the job. And a lot of what I'm hearing on the political scene these days is about blame, finger pointing, accusatory. How much of what we're experiencing today could you have predicted as a member of previous government? How much of what the policies were and the direction that previous Liberal government took this province, could you say helped or hindered where we're at today and the challenges we're facing?
Well, it's hard to predict the future. I don't think anybody knew that Nova Scotia was going to become a destination for Ontarians and Albertans to flock to during the COVID years. You never know what climate challenges are going to come or how hard they're going to hit. And things are like the opposite of when I started. So, you can't predict these things. When I started in politics, people couldn't sell their houses. We had low inflation, low cost of living. We had higher unemployment and a big labor pool. And all those things are different now. We've got a labor shortage. We've got high inflation. We've run out of housing. And these are big challenges that we have to wrap our head around pretty quickly if we're going to continue to benefit from the growth and the success that we've had over the last 10 years. So I think the success of the last 10 years and the 8 years that I served in government with economic growth, with population growth, with investment in healthcare and social programs like pre-primary were all really good and positive, but now we're facing some of the challenges that come with growth and that come with a changing landscape.
So knowing what you know and having that perspective, is it fair to say that it's the government of today that's responsible for all that's wrong?
Well, no, of course not. But and every government is dealing with macro economic and climate issues and challenges with labor. But I do feel it's my role as opposition leader to point out decisions that are being made by this government that aren't helping and that are motivated by the wrong reasons. And I think that is something I have to do. I have a moral obligation to do that, in my opinion. And that's my role in the system. Like, the role of opposition is important. Someone has to hold the government to account. And the majority government, they have all the power. This premier has taken on more power. He's gotten rid of independent boards. He has, taken over control of housing from our municipal units. He's put friends in place in positions of power, and I think that he's spending a lot of money in areas that aren't having the impact that we need to have right now. So I feel it's necessary for someone to point that out, because again, the decisions that are being made now, how we spend our money now, is going to impact this province, not just for the next couple of years, but for years to come. And I do think one of the major issues that I observe with this government is there's a big focus on optics, on getting headlines, on spending big dollars to create the perception of action, and not as much effort being put into serious policy decisions, serious investments that can make a difference, to change what's happening in healthcare, to change what's happening in housing, and to change what's happening in terms of the cost of living pressures. So I think those are legitimate concerns, and I think we've got some very clear examples of that. We've got more people dying in our emergency rooms. We've got wait times now to access healthcare that are twice the national average and that have gone up in the last 2 years. And the government's focused on putting $10 million into an app that links people to websites that were already in existence. And they're spending a lot of money to promote that app. So this is happening at the same time that we've got literally someone dying on the street, homelessness increasing. People who are working, like the gentleman that passed away last week, Dan, his name was, father of two, working part-time, living in a tent, trying to heat his tent with a propane heater. He died of carbon monoxide poisoning. That's not a normal situation. So when I see a government spending money on apps instead of helping people on the ground, I think that is an issue that we need to raise red flags on.
It's human nature to want to get credit for the work that you're doing if you think it's making a difference. And as the opposition leader, your job is to say, well, no, I have a different plan, or our party has a different direction. Where do you see 2024 going when it comes to this tone that we've seen in politics, and the plan that you've had, and how to communicate that to people so they understand it's not a partisan issue as much as perhaps it's a different team with a different view?
Well, I mean, that's exactly the message that we need to spread, right? And it's challenging because the best opportunities we have to communicate is through the media, and conflict does drive the media cycle for the majority of it. So the times that we do agree and that we're in alignment with government, that usually doesn't get out there. But I mean, I think there's a lot that I do disagree with that the current government's doing. I disagree with the amount of money that they're spending in the areas that they're spending it on. Like, we have a housing crisis here. We've got seniors that can't afford to downsize out of their single-family homes because they can't find an affordable place to live. We have the highest rental increases in the country. They've gone up 20% the last year. And we don't have enough places for people to live. So we are driving up homelessness. We are creating anxiety for people right now. And the government has spent $1.5 million on another app called HappyPad. $1.5 million that got 4 students housing. That's $350,000 each for each of those placements, and they spent a lot of time promoting this and public dollars on telling everybody how good they were doing because they have this program. So I mean, that's where I get frustrated, because I see a lot of effort being put into optics, a lot of money being spent on things that look cool, that are flashy, that grab a headline, but aren't having the impact that we need to have right now. Again, we've got people on the street that are literally, somebody died last week. Homelessness has doubled, and I think it's going to get worse. And we have a government that's focused on, again, another investing millions in another app that's clearly not helping the situation. And we've got a premier that's saying, I'm still going to double the population. And growth is great. We want to increase our population, but my question is, okay, how are we going to do that when we don't have enough houses for people that live here now, when our healthcare system is literally collapsing and getting worse, for people that don't have a family doctor, for people that are trying to get emergency care, for people waiting for ambulances, for people waiting to get MRIs and to see specialists. All of these things are getting exponentially worse. How are we going to double the population when we don't have the capacity really to handle the population that's here right now? So these are again big challenges, and it's going to take serious thought and good policy to wrap our heads around them and to move our province forward. And I worry that we have a government that's just focused on spending a lot of money to get headlines and to win votes, and I don't think that's going to help us long term.
People might, though, point to long-term care facilities and the previous Liberal government that didn't build as many as this government is promising to build. The Bloomfield Centre, which has sat idle for more than 10 years, that was part of a plan by the previous NDP government to build housing, affordable housing, something along that line. There was Shannon Park. All of these things to say that there were options or opportunities available to a previous government, and someone might say, why weren't they acted on?
Yeah, and that's a legitimate criticism. We did invest in long-term care, but also there was a focus on home care, because home care is the most cost-effective way to support seniors aging in place. It's also a very dignified way to help seniors age who need help, because they get to stay in their homes. They get to be visited by their family there. They get to live in their community close to their neighbors in a familiar environment. So what people don't talk about is that there was a lot of investment in the home care space, and supports were increased. And I worry now that this government is actually taking resources from home care, including nurses, to deploy in other parts of the system, because like home care is a necessary part.
And I won't disagree with you.
Of long-term care.
But when people then do require care, their level of care is significantly higher.
There with some people with higher acuity, they have to be in long-term care for sure, and we need more long-term care spaces. But we also don't need to overbuild in that space either. And I do worry about losing out on home care services and waiting 10 years for long-term care buildings to be built. Because that's another issue. Like, things aren't being built quickly right now. Mm-hmm. We've seen that with the QE2 redevelopment plan. Like, the government hasn't gotten shovels on the ground in 2 years on that plan, right, for a new hospital that we need. So how are we going to get these seniors care facilities built in a timely manner that's actually going to support the population that's aging right now before it's too late?
Skilled trade shortage, labor shortage.
We
could point to all of that.
Yeah.
You said the media really wants conflict, so let's get into some conflict here, because this is what people want. No, I'm just kidding. You know me well enough to know that. What have you learned about yourself since becoming leader?
And that wasn't a shot at the media. I mean, that's what people, the market wants that. They want to know where the disagreements are, right?
What do you mean by that? No, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
People say they want this, and the other thing, but online, what's popular is the conflict. And it's unfortunate that that's come to that.
But also, that conflict is necessary in a democracy. Like, if we all agreed on everything, what's the point? Disagreeing is an important part of our democratic system. Argument and debate is an important part of it. And I take that role very seriously. So my job is to point out where I see the gaps, where I see the flaws, and the government will hopefully be making better decisions as a result of that pressure and investing in better ways.
And there was a time when, at the end of the day, at the end of a session, as chippy as it might be, the members of the House would all get together and socialize. Does that still happen?
Not like it used to, but there's still good camaraderie there, and most of the personalities in the House can leave it on the ice and enjoy lunch or coffee together. I love talking to people from all the different parties because there are different perspectives, and we all do better as legislators and representatives when we're actually understanding each other's perspectives better too.
What have you learned about yourself since being the leader?
Oh God, I mean, there's some things I'm not going to share on camera, but there's a lot of challenges with being a leader for sure, right? You've got a lot of pressures on you. You have to manage caucus expectations, party expectations, and
but yourself personally, human-wise, what have you learned about yourself as Zach Churchill? Getting up in the morning, knowing you have a job to do.
That I can manage my fear, that I can manage my anxiety in a way that allows me to be productive and focus on areas that will hopefully help people. I've learned that I get really motivated by good ideas. and being around people. So when I'm out with people talking about issues, talking about ideas that can help, that's probably when I am most motivated and inspired.
They call them short snappers. Very quick little tidbits of information that I'm hoping to glean here from you. So what was your biggest success in 2023?
2023, I think pushing the government in some key areas where we were pushing ideas that were actually adopted. We pushed them on expanding cell coverage, which was really exciting for me. We also got them to look at the affordable housing grants for people that build units that are affordable. We got them to expand that to everyday Nova Scotians who want to, put a nanny suite in their basement or put a tiny home on their property. And I would also say that the resolution that we got the government to support in the last session, after a lot of filibustering and a lot of pressure, was we got them to support a resolution of ours to expand job protection for people with chronic illness. So in Nova Scotia right now, you're really only protected for 3 days if you get diagnosed with cancer or another illness that's going to take you out of work. So people aren't protected after that 3-day period. That's the lowest in the country. So we moved a resolution for the government to look at expanding it to what the federal length of unemployment coverage is, employment insurance coverage is, which would be 24 weeks. So they passed that resolution and they have to report back in the next session. And if they do that, that will be something that will impact thousands of Nova Scotians who were not only dealing with kind of the hardest, darkest days of their life, battling off an illness and trying to stay alive, but it would take that pressure of losing their job and losing their financial capacity too. So I mean, those are three things top of mind that I think we were successful in achieving this year from the opposition benches. And that's the exciting thing, is that in our democracy, if you can apply pressure, if you can make the right argument, if you have enough people supporting you, or you have the right idea, you can still have an impact from the opposition benches.
Other side of that, biggest failure?
Well, I mean, the party's got a lot of challenges right now in the polls. We have a lot of work to do to inspire people back to our banner and to build confidence in me. So clearly over the last year, with where we're at right now, I realized I have to do a better job on that front.
What was your best day?
I love being in the House. I love question period. I love debating. So there was a number of days in the House where either we got a piece of legislation moved or asked tough questions on the government that sometimes they had a hard time answering. Those are very satisfying. But also, as I said, like when I'm out in communities, meeting with people, interacting with people, and talking about ideas that matter and policies and investments that help everything from affordable housing to affordability to not just improving our healthcare system, but to improve people's health in Nova Scotia with prevention and better chronic illness management. Those days are always highly satisfying for me. That's when I go home and I'm like, that felt productive.
And the days that were frustrating, what was a worst case scenario, a worst day?
When I'm only focused on kind of politics in my office and chatting with staff, is probably when I'm, the least satisfied with my day. Again, I like being out with people in communities, meeting with stakeholders, and hearing what the issues are, but more importantly, hearing what ideas are out there that can help move our province forward and help individuals dealing with certain challenges, whether that's in our healthcare system or whether that's in our economy or whether that's for people that are looking for a place to live or need to get off the street.
It sounds like worst day is that work-life balance. That's the challenge.
Well, my work, I'm a politician. I mean, I like dealing with the public. I've managed to find a career where I get to interact with people, where I get to talk about public policy and ideas that really matter. And that remains the most satisfying part of the job for me. I mean, it's a lot more satisfying when you're in government and you can make an investment and change a law And I had great moments with the pre-primary program, bringing that in to the province on behalf of Premier Steve McNeil, expanding cancer care in the province when I was healthcare minister. Those are really highly satisfying days. But in opposition, when you get those small wins, push the government on a certain issue where they move, like on cell coverage, on preventative health care, or protecting people's jobs while they're ill, those can be pretty satisfying days too. And I think there's a lot of things that we have to talk about right now. Like Nova Scotia has had the highest inflation in the country. We've had the highest increases in rent. Food insecurity is going up right now. We've got serious headwinds that are starting to impact our economy, like lobsters migrating, farmers who don't have succession plans. Like, all these things are really, really important and consequential. Like, if we don't farm here, if we don't catch fish, that's not only impacting our economy, that's impacting our food security and our ability to feed ourselves. So we really have to be making decisions now that are long-term in nature. And so that's a challenge I've set for myself and our team. It's like, we have to be the party that's not just thinking about the election cycle in 2 years and what we need to do to win that. We have to be the party that is talking about the issues that really matter, and that will also hopefully set our province up for success long term. Because we've got a generation of young people right now, because of the cost of living, because of the housing situation, I don't know if they'll be able to afford a future here in the province. So we've had all this great growth over the last 10 years, and that is starting to hit a wall right now. We've got immigrants coming here on a promise of thriving and being successful and having doctors and having a place to live. They're not finding that, so some of them are leaving. We're seeing that particularly with post-secondary students. So we can't take the successes of the last 10 years for granted. You know, we are starting to face some headwinds. We're starting to face some serious challenges again, and we've got to take those seriously and make the right decisions. And I think we do have to make Nova Scotia more affordable again. We have to be progressive with how we approach housing policy. We don't just need more market housing, we also need more affordable housing units for people. And in healthcare, we can't only be talking about the healthcare system if we don't start talking about people's health, catching illnesses earlier that we know we have rates of here, helping people manage their chronic illness better, like diabetes, by giving people continuous glucose monitors, by catching cardiovascular illness and certain cancers earlier. You know, we're going to be chasing our tail in healthcare for a while. So I think these are three of the big challenges that we've got to have the right ideas on, because not only can it make a difference, you know, for our province's economy and all that, but it's going to make a difference in the quality of lives for people here.
We've covered a lot of ground. So do you have a resolution for 2023 or going into 2024?
Yeah.
Not a political one, a personal one.
That's a good question. I tend to think a lot about work, even during my personal time. But if I could make one resolution, it would be to spend some more time with my kids and my family. And if that means getting them on the road more with me, bringing them around the province, then I'm happy to do that. Because that is a challenge. I live in Yarmouth. It's 3 hours from the city. It's 9 hours from Sydney. I'm on the road a lot and do have to spend a lot of time away from my kids at a point in time where they still actually like me and want to hang out. And they're old enough now to recognize when I'm away. And I've got an incredible wife who we're super compatible with and have a lot of fun together. So yeah, spending more, if not more time, better quality time with them when I'm able to. Last question. What's your personal goal for 2024? Well, listen, I have an obligation to the party, to our caucus, and to the public to be talking about the issues that matter, to have the right ideas for the moment right now, and to do a better job communicating that to Nova Scotians and bringing Nova Scotians into that conversation so they can be a part of developing what we believe the solutions are going to be to not just help this province with the immediate challenges, but also to set us up for long-term success. So I want to be a better leader. I want to be able to inspire more people and hopefully generate more interest in our party and what our party's talking about. I know you're very active on Instagram. Are you on TikTok? Yeah, I have been. But then there was some controversy around it, so we did back off
Right.
on that. But that's a lot of fun too. Maybe that's another thing I need to look at again in the new year, is getting back on there, because that is a really fun, powerful social media tool.
But it makes it challenging for these types of conversations to resonate with people when instantaneous gratification is a scroll away. It's harder to get people engaged in the more complicated issues.
Yeah, and that's why I like this long form format, because we actually get to talk about issues and get into
Oh, don't
things.
worry, we'll cut everything up and it'll be real.
Yeah, but it is a lot more enjoyable for me, instead of realizing when I'm doing an interview that I'm just going to only get 10 seconds out of perhaps a 15, 20-minute interview. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this. You've always been such a thoughtful person to talk with, whether on the radio or here. So I want to thank you for your service to the public as well, Sheldon, and for always being a fun person and thoughtful person to talk to.
Let's fight.
Yes. Yes.
Happy 2023. All the best in
Merry
2024.
Christmas, man. Happy holidays, and best of the new year to you as well.
Fantastic.